you. We've got a cool thing that we're going to do called Conversations on the Couch. And obviously, we have the coolest couch ever. April's going to sit. Okay, you got your mic? Okay, good. So this is April, and she is the founder and CEO of Light Beamers. Who's a light beamer in here? Right? It's the coolest thing ever, y'all. Everybody in here needs to go and join her community. It's the most loving, supportive. I don't care. If you get on there your first time and just say something, you have like so many replies that are like, you go, girl, or I'm, for you or whatever. So it's a beautiful, wonderful, safe place. And I've been part of it for several years. April helped me launch my book. And so she was in charge of making me get on social media when I didn't want to. She's good like that. But she also just put out her first book. So yay. With 13 other women, some of whom are here tonight, right? And so it's called Elevate Your Voice. Did I say it right? It's back there on the table. It is an amazing book. I've already got mine and started reading mine, and so I highly recommend that you get it. That is what she's about. I hope we're not. Can you hear it? Can you hear the buzz? I don't want to make sure that I'm not. Anyway. She also has a fabulous podcast for any of you that listen to podcasts. And she spent very many years in broadcast journalism and was on the news and all those cool things. And so she is a phenomenal interviewer and just has just this natural, wonderful way about her of pulling things out. She has become my friend. My cheerleader when I need one, and my coach who pushes me pretty hard when I don't want to be pushed. But I love you. I'm so thankful for you.
So proud of you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm excited to lead these conversations from the couch over the weekend and to just let women's stories really be heard, which is really what Light Beamers is all about. That's the main goal of the work that I do in the world, is letting women know that their story matters and that there's a place for you to share your story. And so we want to create a place where we share some of those stories with you over the weekend with some women that we are going to be sharing the couch with. And we're just going to have these conversations just like we're in each other's living room, like literally on the couch, and we're all just sitting around celebrating what God is doing in our lives. And so I just encourage you, as being in the living room with us, that you just listen and see if you can hear or find yourself in any of the stories that the women come and join me on the couch to share, if you can find a little piece of yourself in those stories. And that's it. That's all you have to do, is just be with us and listen for your own thread of commonality. The times when you say, me too, or, oh, I've experienced that also, or even a state of inspiration and wow, and maybe even disbelief, and all of that is okay. And so that's what we're going to do today, and I have Jennifer, another one of our beautiful committee members, who's going to join me on the couch, and we're going to start our first conversation, and we're just going to have a seat. Isn't this the coolest couch? I mean, I might have to take this home. Like, right? I want this. This is so posh. I love it. I love it.
I think so.
Can y'all hear both of us? Yeah. It is hard up here. You don't really, it's like a lot of lights. So it's hard to see. All of our friends sitting in the living room with us. Well, we chatted a little bit before, and we were kind of thinking about what needs to be shared. Like, what's the story that's the right story to come up with for all of you to hear and receive, and give Jennifer a chance to share how God has been working in her life. And, one of the things that we were thinking about in the beginning was coming to something like this, like being the first time, walking in on the first day, maybe getting here late or having come through a bunch of traffic, whatever it is. Sometimes, maybe some of you are here by yourself. Maybe some of you are here with a group. Maybe you were here because someone invited you and you're not really sure why you're here. right? And you had a similar experience many years ago, 20 years ago, I think you told me, about going to a women's retreat, and that because you had been invited.
Yes.
And what happened in that moment with you being invited, going to something similar to this, and what did it take for you to say yes, and why did you say yes? Like, what was going on in your life that you felt compelled to go to a place where it was a worship retreat, it was a Christian retreat where women were going to be discussing their faith? Where were you in your faith at that point, and why did you say yes?
It was about 20 years ago. My cousin had invited me, and I was in a really, really dark, difficult place with a lot of things going on. I was miserable. I was crying every single day. And I was talking to my cousin a lot, and she's like, we're having this women's retreat. You need to come. She lived in Colorado. I was in California at the time. And I came up with a lot of excuses why I wasn't going to go. Yeah, I wasn't going to go. And I kind of was, entertaining a little bit. And then she called me and she said, Jennifer, one of the women from my church, we prayed about you, and they've bought your airline ticket, and they're paying for you to come to the conference, and you need to come. And so then I was stuck. I was like, man, all right. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go. So I went, and it was a 3-day retreat, and I was usually around people older than me. Again, this was 20 years ago, and everyone there was my age and also married with kids, and so it was a little weird for me because everyone was like actual peers. And the first night, we kind of all just were talking, and I sat up all night arguing with these women about Jesus and how they could say and claim that there was only one way to heaven. And I'm like, you can't say that. That's so arrogant that you're saying that. Like, how can you say there's only one way to heaven? Like, that's just what about Jewish people? What about people that are born on an island and never heard anything? What about people that don't know? Like, that's just awful that you guys are sitting here saying that. Like, I'm arguing with them. And when I say all night, I mean the sun came up. Like, we argued all night. I was just so stubborn. I mean, and I still had like a background of faith. It's not like I didn't know who God was or I didn't know anything about,
Had you grown up in the church? Had you been?
My grandparents were, my grandpa was a pastor or a deacon. My grandparents were amazing, married 50 years, but, I saw them occasionally. So there was a good kind of foundation, but I was in my 20s. I'd lived, I was not faithful or anything. I'd gone my own way. And it was just odd to me. It was odd. So I'm up all night arguing with them, and I'm like, also my other problem was I felt like the Bible preached that women were below men, and I don't agree with that. I still have problems with that one because that's not what I think.
Me
Anyway,
too. Me too.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? A loving God would not let suffering, and a loving God, like all the questions that I now hear my own children now will come and say to me. And there was no judgment. I was the one that was probably the most judgmental, not looking back. And so that was the first night. The second day, there was like quiet time, and I was like, okay, God, like if you're real, then I need you to talk to me because like this is just weird and these people are all crazy or something's going on. I don't even know. So I open up my Bible, and the words that pop out is, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So I closed it. And I was like, yeah, right. That was just a coincidence. That's not real. That didn't happen. That's insane. Okay, well, all right. And then I'm like, well, is it going to happen again?
So you open it
I
again?
opened it again. And I don't remember the second verse, but it was something profound. And I just kind of sat there like, oh, all right, well, geez. Like, now I'm feeling all sorts of things going on. And so I was, definitely a little bit more open. And the third day, the last day, was like kind of the ending, and there was this big room and everybody was there and they were praying, and I thought that was super weird. And there was a lady that had thrown her back out, and she was laying on the couch, and there's like they're praying or whatever, and the room was packed. There was not an available seat in the room, except for directly across from me there was a chair.
An empty chair?
An empty chair.
Okay.
And it was so weird because I kept looking at that chair and I just felt like Jesus was sitting in that chair. And all I wanted to do was get up and go sit at the feet of that chair. And I'm like arguing with myself, like, you are going crazy. Like, this is insane. What is wrong with you? Like, it was the weirdest thing. And so then they're praying over this lady's back. And I felt the need to get up and go and touch her. And my hands became white hot. I don't know how else to describe it, just white hot, like a ball of energy in my hands. And I felt this strong need to get up and go and touch her. And I said, no way, I am not doing it. I'm not getting out of this chair. I am not moving. I don't know that person. This is insane. Did somebody slip acid in my drink? Like, what is going on? So I didn't do it. I didn't. I said no. And I still regret that. I mean, I do. But I didn't do it. But then I had this overwhelming feeling like wash over me of love. I mean, it's just like receiving the Holy Spirit. I don't even know how else to describe it. It was unbelievable. And I just started bawling, crying. I was a blubbering mess, which did not make sense to me in any way, shape, or form. It was absolutely life-changing, like a direct encounter with God and the Holy Spirit. Like, you could just, it was a different level of understanding and peace and grace. And I was able to say, okay, all of the questions that I don't understand, like dinosaurs, I can just put those aside. And I said, okay, God, I'm going to ask you one day about all these things that I don't understand.
Yeah.
But I can't deny this. I can't run from it anymore. I can't do it myself. I don't like crying. I like to be in control.
Yeah.
And I don't like to give up control. And I think when you trust God, you have to give up control. And so but you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
And so I had to make a decision.
And so you left that weekend having been changed. And that was 20 years ago, right? That was 20 years ago. I'm curious what changed about just daily life. And Jennifer, when you went back home to California.
You know, it's so funny you asked that. I forgot all about that till right now when you just asked that. I remember going back and getting on the plane and going, okay, so I feel like a totally different person now, but everybody's going to think I'm weird.
Because you're going to go back, this new
to
Jennifer.
my life. And I don't want to, and look, let's just be honest. The perception of Christian, even women, is weird. It just is. If you're not in that, you perceive it as they're Bible thumpers or weird or whatever. And so I had this fear that, you know, I'm going to go back to California, my friends, and everybody's going to think I'm weird. So how do I, and I'm like, oh, how do I do that?
Yeah.
And so.
But did you still feel
changed? Yeah.
Changed
100%.
That you couldn't deny it, so you had to go back and honor that in some way.
And make a decision. Like, how do I, you know, and the first part for me was how I did that was I started reading my Bible. And it's just like, I wanted to read my Bible. I wanted to get to know God more, where previously I didn't really, you know, I was trying to do things and figure everything out on my own.
Yeah.
And I wanted to read my Bible. And then I found a church there, Saddleback, which is Rick
the big
Warren.
one.
Yeah. And I adored him and their family, and I just kind of dove in. And it's been a process. I'm still controlling. I still do things my way a lot. And
You know, you talked about being in that room on the third day and the empty chair and the need to, like, the desire to go sit at the feet of Jesus, and then, like, to use your own, you know, to be a vehicle and a vessel in that moment with your hands, and you didn't do it. And you said earlier that you've regretted that. What have you thought about that moment over the years, and what is that regret about? Tell me a little bit more about that. What do you recognize about it now with perspective?
I think fear. I just was so weirded out by the whole thing that I was just like, it was almost a defiant kind of adamant. Like, I knew what, like, on one level you know what's going on, and then there's the arguing in your head that you're going insane, and then there's the being obedient.
Yeah.
And I was stubborn and not being obedient. And I mean, since then, I've had to really work hard on trusting God and choosing to be obedient. And being obedient is hard. It is not easy. It's a hard thing to do sometimes. Sometimes it's easy, but sometimes, like, I don't want to call somebody and apologize. I don't want to forgive. I don't want to do that. I don't. So it's hard. It's your ego.
So does that, the ego, right? Does that memory from 20 years ago and that moment when you were not obedient, is that something that helps you now move more towards obedience and surrendering in moments that continue to be hard? Does that come up? And, like, like today, how does that and all the other experiences that you've been through over the last 20 years, how do you wrestle with the ego versus falling into being with God and letting Him be the one that guides and drives everything instead of us being in control, right?
Right. I think that it's, I mean, there's so many times He's showed up for me. And, and I think that through life you kind of ebb and flow of when you get busy or you just can get disconnected. But I think God shows up a lot when, we're in pain.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes He allows painful situations to kind of remind us a little bit that it's not about me. I think that's the other big life lesson is, again, your ego versus your soul is sometimes you get surrounded and everything is about me. And what can I do? I have to do this and I have to do that. What about this and that? And like I'm not focused on God, I'm focused on myself.
Yeah.
And recently, I just ended a relationship that needed to be ended. I liked him a lot. I didn't want to end it. I really liked him, but it wasn't right. I knew it wasn't right. I ignored God a lot about it because the whole time I was ignoring him about it, but I liked him. He was really cute and lots of fun. But I had to walk away and I had to end it. And so I broke up with him. And then I was really upset because he wasn't calling me or chasing me, which is what I thought he should have been doing. And I was like super upset. And I wanted to call him. Oh my gosh. I felt like a teenager. And I was standing in my closet and I was hanging up clothes and I was talking to God and I'm super mad. And I said, can I just call him? I want to call him. I need to call him. I'm just going to call him. I'm going to call him really quick. I'm just going to call him. And I'm telling you, there's people say you don't hear God audibly.
Right.
I promise you, I flat out heard him say, Jennifer, I told you no. And it wasn't me because I wanted to call him.
You weren't saying no.
I wasn't saying no to myself. And then he softly said, do you trust me? And I'm just like, ugh. I guess. And so I didn't call him. And I had to walk through that, being obedient and walking away from something that I really wanted, but it wasn't what God wanted for me. And I knew it. And I knew that He had something better around the corner for me, but not as long as I held on to what I wanted and I was trying to control it. And so it's so hard to describe how hard it was. It sounds so dumb that it was hard to walk away from something that wasn't good for you.
I think a lot of us do that. I think we all have things, whether it's relationships or addictions or just behaviors, putting our focus on all the wrong things, They feel right in the moment, but they're a distraction at the end of the day. They're a distraction from really how we're supposed to like step out every day. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that it's silly, because to me it's very, I talk to so many women about their story, and it's, for you it was a relationship or saying no to this really weird situation 20 years ago when that was a very uncomfortable space to be in when you're not used to worshiping and praying and being in community with women in that way. Mm-hmm. And so all it is just, like you said, it's when we feel out of place or unsure, fear, like you said, that's where the need for control comes in, right? Yeah. I have so many things that I want to control. Yeah. And I know right? Do you guys have some things that you would like to control and they come up for you all the time? And so I think that's why your story is so relevant. It's about really learning to, and be reminded that you said it, you knew something was around the corner better. Mm-hmm. There's something, otherwise you wouldn't have felt compelled to leave that relationship. Well, and you knew it.
And I knew he was leading me down the wrong path. I could just see, he didn't have a faith base, and then I was even making excuses for that. Oh, well, I can teach him. Yeah, right. Sure, maybe, but no, not that one. But to walk away and make that hard decision, it was months of pain. It was actually painful. I was diving into my prayer journal, I'm telling you. And so I learned a lot about myself through that process. I was proud of myself for walking mm-hmm. away and doing the hard things.
Yes.
Exactly. It's hard. But then when you do hard things, then you're like, okay, I feel... I'm grateful for the experience. And also I will say, I'm also super proud of myself for how I broke up with him and ended it. I did it in love and grace and kindness. There was no drama, there was no crying, there was no yelling or screaming or fighting, which in my past would have maybe been the way it was. But it was, I'm proud of myself for how I handled it, because at the end of the day, what made me feel better is that I could hopefully show him God and be able to handle myself with grace and respect. And I had to make a decision for what was best for me, lovingly. Mm-hmm. And there's no shame in that, even though it was hard.
Yeah.
So
how long ago was that, this breakup and this process, and where are you today with that? Do you see the light now and what God had in store for you?
Yeah, so I have a new guy who's super cute. And
even cuter than the other guy?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And I didn't know guys like this existed.
Yeah.
I didn't know. He is so thoughtful and kind and a Christian. And the other day he said, "Can I just stop? I want to pray over you." And I'm just like, ooh, okay. He's, again, listen, I hit the lottery. And it's new, so I'm not, I'm still, this is still, we'll see where God takes it. There's, no expectations. I've learned a lot in a lot of years. But, he's super cute, and he's super hot, and he's super funny, and thoughtful, and attentive, and considerate.
I love it.
He's all the things right
all
now.
All the things.
He's all the things. So, not that a guy is everything, because that's,
But
I had to be willing to be
a relationship is a desire.
Yeah.
That's, something that you obviously have asked for, and you invited God into that process with you by even saying, I've got to, agreeing with God that you had to leave the other relationship. And I think that's a beautiful aspect about the way you're approaching your relationships. And I find it so interesting that just listening to you, I'm thinking, hearing this guy oh, can we stop and I'll just pray over you? What would Jennifer from 20 years ago have said about that?
I was sort of,
Like how different things
Yeah.
are for you, that you
Sure.
are more like you've embraced the weird.
yeah. And part of me, I will say, so going back to the 20 years ago when I was, nervous to like come home and go through that, I've almost made it a little bit of my kind of mission to still be me as a Christian. Right? Like, I'm wearing heels. I'm wearing bright
you are
pink
wearing
lipsticks.
Y'all, look at these shoes. I cannot even.
Thank you.
Right?
My feet are killing me.
Yeah, I get that. But it's worth it.
It is. My mom always said their beauty is pain, but I made it my mission to not give up who I was in order to still follow Jesus. Like I am who I am, and I'll put my makeup on every single day. Like I'm who I am. I show up as I am. I live my life as an open book. I will. I've had a crazy life, and I'm willing to share any of the details with anybody. Like there's no shame. And I've had to sit through a lot of judgment, and I'm totally okay with it. But I had to get to that place, and it's so much better to be at that place as a Christian, because like, if you don't like me, that's okay, God does. And it's fine with me. Like I'm totally okay. No one has to like me, I'm fine. I'm good, I'm gold. It's awesome, I'm great. So I don't worry about the judgment of other people anymore.
How has it helped you facilitate someone else maybe coming to know Jesus better and have that relationship, just like your cousin did? I mean, she knew how to get you there and had those women praying to get you there and buying the plane ticket and all the things. And then look at what door opened as a result of that.
Yeah.
You probably would not have been that person 20 years ago. I'm just making assumptions, but it sounds like that. So now, as a result of kind of just truly accepting who you are and all that you are, how do you minister to others? So
I am blessed. I have 4 children, and that provides a lot of, and they're all pretty much grown now, but that provides a lot of friends and ability to have conversations. And, my house is kind of the hangout house. And I spend a lot of time talking to these just amazing people, and I'm not ashamed to tell them, look, this is what you need to do. Like, you need to pray about it. You need to turn to God. You need to have a prayer journal. I recommend, if you're depressed, put on worship music. You can't, like, the devil just can't seem to get through when you've got worship music on. I try very hard to just make sure that I share with them what worked for me, and I can relate on so many different levels of the things. And I will tell you, these kids just open up to me. I know too much. Like, I know things that I don't, I know too much. And that's a hard place to be in too, because when you know too much and they share too much, you're like, ugh, but I can guide in a way that I feel like helps them open their eyes. Like, that's the whole secret, is like, you can just see when someone's eyes are closed and they're blind to the truth. And when the truth is really that God sets you free, but what he sets you free from is the lies. The lies we tell ourselves, the lies you believe from the devil. Like, that's what holds every single one of us back, is the lies. What we play in our head, that you're not good enough. It's never enough. You can't do it good enough. You're going to fail. You're going to do that.
Weird.
Yeah, or that's weird. Or they're going to judge you.
They're going to judge you.
Like, all the things that run through your head, you have to take every thought captive. And I think that's the most important lesson that I try to tell every single one of them. You take every single thought captive. You don't have to think every single thing that you think. It's most of it's lies. Yeah. And I still battle that every single day. Yeah. Every single day, I can tell you 1,000 things that's wrong with me. I can put my makeup on in the mirror, and then I can't look at myself the rest of the day. Or I will pick apart myself to a 100th degree. So I have to battle it myself. And then when you watch, I think the hardest part is when you watch, I have girls, and they're beautiful and stunning, and then they do that to themselves, and it just kills kills me. And then that's a vicious cycle, because then you go, okay, well, I did that to them. Obviously, if I'm the one saying it and talking bad about myself, then now that same tape that plays in my head plays in their head. So then you run down this whole guilt, spiral down. But so then I have to stop and say, okay, no, like, I'm going to pray over them. I'm going to pray over myself, and I'm going to take every thought captive. And I think it's a daily exercise.
Yeah.
And effort, I don't know. I don't have it figured out, I promise.
What is one thing that you're hoping to get out of this weekend for you personally?
Honestly, that last song where it was, and she was singing, I want to sit at the feet of Jesus, and I don't want anything out of this.
I thought about you.
I know, me too. We were
because
just
you had
talking about,
shared a little bit of that story with me earlier, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so perfect for the words of that song.
That's what I was thinking. And then, it's saying, like, I don't want any, like, you don't owe me anything.
Yeah.
Like, God doesn't owe me anything. I'm just happy to serve and help and do whatever I can, and He doesn't owe me anything. So if He gives me nothing out of this, I'm great. I'm good. Like, I'm just super lucky and blessed, and I choose to sit in that.
So the theme this weekend of living in full color, what does that mean for you, and how do you try to live in full color?
For me, it is, I think, just continuing to own who I am and embrace that and not downplay it or talk bad to myself about not being good enough. It's about just continuing to accept. And look, as I get older, and I'm almost 50, and the aging process is hard for me, and I don't like it. I was checking people in. I'm like, I can't see. I need to get those readers, man. I don't want to.
You made it to 50. That happened to me at 40.
Well,
I'm
not
gone
quite
the minute
50.
I turned 40. So
I'll be 50 soon, but I'm 48. So
Okay,
it's soon enough. But, again, so I think accepting where I am. Like, I have to accept getting older.
Yeah.
And it's just a hard thing it's just hard. I'm happy for Botox and, red light.
yeah, I got an amen over that one.
I know, right?
Love it.
So, I think just accepting where I am and where God has me, and being grateful for it, and just continuing to talk about Him when I can and lift Him up and try to open people's eyes. If I can, it's not me doing it, so that's even the wrong word. So however you're supposed to say that. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you're living in full color with this beautiful yellow and your shoes and all of it. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah.
Did anyone feel any of that in your stories? Yes. I think that a few things that I heard you say was just, letting go of ego and like making decisions around that, and looking objectively at things in your life, and where is ego at play and where do you need to be more obedient, right? Accepting yourself for who you are, that it's okay if others don't like you. God's got you. I love that. I know as women we struggle a lot with acceptance and wanting others to like us and to have that sense of belonging, and to remember that I'm going to take that one with me. You don't have to like me. God likes me.
Yeah.
And that we all belong with Him. And that you still get, one of the things that I love the most too is you saying that you still get to be all of you too, because that is how God made you, right? All of us are different, and whatever makes you unique, whatever makes you special, that was by design. And so the fact that you love nice clothes and you like pretty things and you're fighting aging, like all of that, like that's just who you are. But there's so many other layers to who you are too. That's just one component of you. And we could sit here all day and find out all the other layers of Jennifer, but those were really beautiful things to share, I think, with a group of women who have their own thing that they're probably judging and have the tape recorder playing in your head every day, like, oh, I shouldn't do that, or this isn't enough, or I didn't do this right, or whatever it may be. We all have that. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
She did great. She did great. Yes.